Hello everyone, and welcome to Restorative Health Solutions. If you understand what's making you sick, then you can start to understand how to get better. More information is power. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Warren, and today I'm going to talk about the difference between autoimmune diseases and Lyme disease. Now, there can be a lot of confusion when people have a variety of symptoms because autoimmune diseases and Lyme disease symptoms can look somewhat similar. So I'll try to talk about how we distinguish in the office between the two, how they are related, because there's a certain percent of people where they certainly can happen at the same time, but they are distinctly different and they have some unique things you need to do. And if you're trying to chase an autoimmune disease when you have Lyme, we find you're going to be less successful and vice versa. So it is an important thing to think about in your differential diagnosis for getting better. The first and foremost, on a very basic level, Lyme disease and chronic Lyme disease is triggered by a bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi or other species of Borrelia. Now, in chronic Lyme, or what's called post-treatment Lyme, we do get chronic immune dysfunction after the infection has finished the acute phase and gone into a more slow-growing chronic phase. So you do end up with this chronic inflammation from low-grade immune dysfunction. Now, this is where autoimmune disease comes in. So autoimmune disease is a type of inflammation where your immune system is falsely targeting your own body and thinks that your body is a virus or is a bacteria, and is now your immune system is trying to kill your own body. So these are very different processes. So in Lyme disease, we do have chronic inflammation, and in autoimmune disease, we have chronic inflammation, but in Lyme, we don't always have where your immune system is attacking your own body. And in autoimmune diseases, by definition, your immune system has accidentally started to attack your own body, and now your immune system's damaging directly your own body and your own tissues. So what happens to the immune system during Lyme disease? Well, this is one of the biggest things. There's a study out of Montana State. It just got funding earlier in 2025. They are literally trying to study more thoroughly some of the changes that the immune system undergoes when you're infected with Lyme disease. They're literally studying how Lyme circumvents the immune system in order to establish this long-term infection or this chronic infection. And so that is very important, and a part of Lyme disease that I think doesn't get enough talking about. When we talk about Lyme, most people want to talk about how to kill it, and we talk about the regular form, and then we talk about the stationary forms or the round body forms or the biofilms. We talk about all the tricks that Lyme has up its sleeve to try to evade from being killed and why it becomes so antibiotic resistant. But we talk a lot about killers and what kills it in different forms. One of the key components that I try to talk about with my patients is that Lyme creates immune dysfunction. We know it weakens natural killer cells and CD57 cells. And this is a huge thing that Lyme does to the immune system. And then there's more study on all the co-infections, because guess what? Each one of the co-infections, like Babesia, Bartonella, Anaplasma, Rickettsia, they all weaken another part of the immune system. And so you get immune dysfunction on multiple levels. So we can get B cell or adaptive immune system suppression. We can get Th17 suppression. We can get nitric oxide problems. We can end up with macrophage problems. So the different ticks and the different co-infections all create different immune system dysfunction. And especially when they're combined, we end up with someone who's chronically ill. Now, when your immune system activated, it's supposed to kill a bug and then win and then calm down. And in chronic Lyme, that immune system activation can just go on in perpetuity, leading to chronic symptoms such as headaches, neck pain, muscle pain, fatigue. That post-exertional fatigue is famous. And then a plethora of neurological symptoms because Lyme likes the nerves. When we contrast Lyme disease with autoimmune diseases, we see some differences. So one of the big things we see when I'm testing the immune system, when we're running lymphocyte panels, is one of the big common players for autoimmune disease is the T regulator cell. And T regulator cells are extremely important. We call them the mom of the immune system. And Treg cells, when they become low, we really have a tendency to get autoimmunity in play. As you lose the regulators, the other parts of the immune system start to act with less control, and we end up attacking our own body. So one of the key things that we deal with in autoimmune diseases is trying to benefit and bump up T regulator function. It's a very common pattern. This is actually not a super common pattern of immune dysfunction in Lyme. Generally speaking, we measure the Tregs. I find that they are functioning. Now, also, while healing the gut is very, very important in autoimmune and can be another source of inflammation, these T regulator cells have a huge role in the gut and have a huge population in the gut. So also, when we look at autoimmunity, there is a huge bang for your buck by going after healing the gut. And while healing the gut and getting good food and getting nutrients in is a very important part of healing people, it's not the same emphasis in Lyme disease as it is in autoimmunity. Once again, because when we look at these Treg cells, often in Lyme we have healthy Treg cells. It's other parts, it's the natural killer cells, it's other pieces of the immune system that are dysfunctioning that are not as gut-centric as in autoimmune processes. So when we're looking at the difference between Lyme and autoimmunity really drives us to Treg cells and to gut health in a more aggressive way than in general Lyme disease does. That's one of the biggest clinical aspects. That does not mean you don't have to help the gut in Lyme people, but it certainly plays a huge role in autoimmunity, and I would say a slightly less role in Lyme disease. There is an overlap between Lyme and autoimmune because what we're trying to figure out in many Lyme people is this looks like an autoimmune disease. It looks like rheumatoid arthritis. It looks like lupus. It looks like some kind of autoimmune inflammatory joint disease. Now, we do know that infections can trigger autoimmunity. So there is a subset of population, maybe 10 to 15% of the time, where we have an autoimmune disease like psoriasis, or we have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, or we have these autoimmune processes that we can track. And then you do have infections that are triggering and pushing, or I could say amplifying, the autoimmune process. In that case, still getting rid of the Lyme or helping someone overcome the Lyme and reestablish immune balance is a good idea. So whether your symptoms are coming from Lyme or you have Lyme and autoimmunity, getting rid of the Lyme is a part of healing the autoimmunity and helping the immune system regain control. Also, if it's all coming from Lyme, obviously getting rid of the Lyme, helping the immune system rebalance is important. But if you have an autoimmune disease, like you have rheumatoid and you have other autoimmune processes, that does not always mean you have Lyme. In fact, in quite a bit of people who have autoimmunity, you have other things that trigger the immune system to create this inflammation. Chemical toxicity, food is a big one, gut dysbiosis is a big one. And so in order to heal from autoimmunity, we have gotten better responses from looking through your history, looking through testing at all sources of things creating inflammation and helping to remove them. Now, that may include Lyme and tick-borne illness, but usually if it's more of an autoimmune, we have to look a little more extensively at other things that trigger inflammation as well. Now, from a functional health perspective, when we're looking at immune balance, we want to make sure that we're not just doing immune suppressing techniques. So right now, our colleagues in medicine, when you have autoimmunity, go, I see the inflammation's damaging your body, and we're going to take a variety of immune suppressing drugs to try and calm that down. While this can be used in the short term, I think it's a good idea, but suppressing your immune system for a long period of time can have negative consequences. And so we really think you're going to get better long-term results by finding sources of inflammation and removing it. And this is why in our patients, even though I'm doing so much Lyme disease, that we do have patients we're running autoimmune panels on, and when we're positive for autoimmunity, or we have that simultaneously, we are looking for other things that drive inflammation, such as gut health, such as hormonal imbalances, such as chemical imbalances, because it is about getting rid of any source of that inflammation trigger to help autoimmunity. And it's like in about 10 to 15% of my patients, we have this autoimmune at the same time that we have the Lyme. You can heal from both. You can be healthy. You can live a healthy life. But every time you add another factor of dysfunction, it generally just slows down how fast you heal. So the more things we have Lyme, plus gut problems, plus an autoimmune Crohn's disease, for example. I think we have a testimonial of a patient where she had Crohn's, and the gut inflammation, the autoimmune gut process, just made everything a little bit more complicated. We ran into a few more blocks along the way as we went through the healing process, but she got there, and you can too. There is a way to heal. There is a path forward for your body. I firmly believe that for everyone. But the more factors you throw in, the more complicated it is to try to find that path for each person. But I'm absolutely convinced it can be done. So to wrap up here, Lyme is different than autoimmune. It can be along with autoimmune, but Lyme is that chronic inflammation coming from exposure to the Lyme bacteria and probably co-infections as well. And autoimmunity is when your immune system isn't just creating inflammation, but it's actually targeting parts of your body for destruction. And in order to do both these diseases, we do need to work on balancing the immune system. But with Lyme, for example, we have much more problem with natural killer cell health. And in autoimmune, we have much more problem with T regulatory cell health as a general overarching theme. So if you want to learn more about your immune response, this is a test that I do run on many of my patients. We are looking at immune panels and cytokine panels and lymphocyte panels to try and understand the type of dysfunction and chronic inflammation that's in your immune system. And this helps us build the right program for you. If you're struggling with your health, we'd love to help you. Give our clinic a call, reach out. Hope you find better health. Thank you.